Hello, welcome. This is your host, Bob Spurzum from BDNA. Welcome to our webinar today titled Fast Track Your Windows 10 Migration. This is one of our new 30 Minutes with the Product Desk webinars where we bring to you really solid and useful information about our technology in just a short amount of time. I'm joined today with John Finnerty. John is one of our senior consultants working in the field. John, welcome today.
Thanks, Bob. I'm looking forward to today's presentation.
Yeah, I'm glad we're lucky you took some time out of your busy schedule, because I know you're a real expert in this technology. There's no better person to show it to us today, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of your great stories. Before we jump in, I want to give just a few minutes of background about these challenges we face with Windows 10 migration. I went on the internet and just went and did some research. You know, Windows 10 came out in the summer of 2015. And in fact, in last summer of 2016, the first major service pack came out. So we're well into the release of this product. And the numbers show here, yeah, in fact, millions of us have already moved ahead and are working on this migration, if not perhaps already done with it. But given the fact that many of us went through the Windows 7, Windows 8 whole migration period, we knew there were many challenges involved. I went to our friends over at Jariba and I took a look at, they had some good research in this area, and I brought out this chart. Now, some of these challenges make sense, you know, budget, time, having resources. But what jumped out at me was that big one there, application compatibility. And this is something we know a lot about at BDNA, so I went into our own research. And I found this, I thought, very interesting information. When you look at different software packages that are running on all these desktops and laptops, the big question is, are they compatible if we upgrade that platform to Windows 10? What's going to happen to all my users? They come to work and their favorite applications aren't running anymore. Well, that's the challenge. And uncovering all this information is really vital. If you break into that incompatibility area, that 18%, our data shows that there's a lot of things you got to know about. Look at here. Some of the stuff is just flat out, it's going to be incompatible. Or there's an upgrade available, but there's a fee for it, and you better budget for that. So this is a really useful information for anybody planning a major Windows 10 campaign. And why does this all matter? I got one final slide here, John. This came out of a Gartner report, but the point is, it shows here that the amount of time to prepare for this migration can be considerable. And importantly, I thought it showed it here in red. It's like warning. Look at that compatibility testing, just gathering the information, the inventory. Where do you go out inventory all your software, perhaps hundreds of different products, all the versions, and answering that question of compatibility in terms of incompatible, do I have to pay a fee to upgrade, all these things. John, I want you to show our audience, we want to take this testing time, this 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. I think we can move that down to even a month or 2 months. So I'm going to pass the ball to you and sit back and enjoy as you take us through Technopedia and how it can help with the Windows 10 migrations.
Thanks, Bob. What I'm going to do today is go through a small build deck to show you some of the features of the BDNA platform. And then we're going to do a live hands-on demo with the BDNA Analyze tool to tell you some stories about hardware and software positions with relationship to a Windows 10 compatibility. So how do we do it? BDNA delivers the most trusted and comprehensive hardware and software asset information to our customers to simplify integrations, accelerate business transformation, and improve decision-making. BDNA has a content creation infrastructure that leverages automation and a team of content experts and a proven data quality framework. Presently, we have over 1.7 million plus hardware and software products in our catalog and 120 million plus market data points, with our catalog being continuously updated, over 2,500 updates per day. Real-time information delivered to you and available to you for your normalization, aggregation, and alignment purposes. This deck shows a small version. It shows the workflow process for the BDNA Technopedia platform. The first slide here is the aggregation piece, where BDNA is capable of consuming endpoints from any data sources that are available out there. Typically, we see things like BMC discovery, we see SCCM, we see ServiceNow discovery, products like Altiris, like SolarWinds, like Tanium, those all can be consumed by a BDNA for use within our Normalize and Technopedia platform. The second build here shows the aggregation process, where we aggregate all of the endpoints, we deduplicate, we consolidate all the sources and normalize around the Technopedia to deliver the consistent, accurate, and complete current asset data. We go through a filtering process where we determine relevant from irrelevant data, which means we take out things like help files, language packs, other things like that that aren't necessarily related to your licensing or exposure position for a Windows 10 migration. So we reduce all the signal to noise to get to the point where you've got actionable data that's gone through a filtering and duplication and aggregation process. We normalize the results. We deduplicate based on a number of variables inside for things like serial numbers, MAC addresses, other information from hardware, software identifiers within the files themselves, provided by the software manufacturers, and BIOS information from hardware manufacturers to get to the truth of your actual asset data, to clean it up, to align it, and to deduplicate it so you've got actionable information on your asset inventory. We then pass that through and align that data with the Technopedia catalog. That enables us to relate to the Technopedia taxonomy, which is provided by manufacturers' information, both hardware and software. So the data coming in from your discovery source is aligned with manufacturers' definitions, versions, additions, releases, subversions of all of the information and all of the software and hardware products that they produce. We then enrich that information with non-discoverable market information based on our content packs. Things like Windows 10 compatibility, which we're going to look at today, lifecycle and support information for things like end-of-life, GA information, obsolescence information, so you can get that kind of a perspective on your software and hardware asset landscape as well. And then we provide that information to be consumed by downstream applications, either the BDNA Analyze tool, which we're going to look at in a minute, or other platforms within your organization. ITSM processes, for example, ServiceNow, BMC, CA, CMDB products, asset products, planning products, enterprise architecture products. All of this clean, normalized information can then be made available for consumption and use by other parts of your organization and other tools and platforms. Our Technopedia content packs, this is a bit more detail about our enrichment processes. You can see here, these are the available content packs presently for our platform. InfoSec, security products for CVE, CPE vulnerabilities aligned to the NIST database, hardware specifications, pricing information, lifecycle and support for manufacturers of both hardware and software information, open source compliance, procurement integrations, virtualization compatibility, and Windows 10 compatibility. I mentioned before, what we're looking at today is going to be some lifecycle and support and some Windows 10 compatibility based on some demonstration data that we've got in one of our platforms. Any questions on that, Bob?
No, keep going. I love it.
Great. So let's take a look right now. Just bear with me for a second while I spin up my demo instance, and I will pull the BDNA Analyze product onto my screen shortly. So what we've got here, this is the BDNA Analyze screen, and this is our BI analytics tool pointed at our normalized database. So what we're going to be looking at today is the output of the Technopedia and normalized process. And we're going to try to tell a couple of stories on this based on, excuse me, a hardware view and a software view of some normalized data with respect to some end-of-life data, some lifecycle data, as well as some Windows 10 compatibility data. First thing, we're going to look at some software information. So I'm going to bring up our attributes list over here. I'm going to run a filter just so I can filter it into software. And this is going to let me bring in information based on discovered data. In this case, we've got a couple sources here. So we've got some HPUD data sources as well as some SCCM data. And we're going to aggregate that information. We're going to provide it through this console and this interface to answer some questions about software positions with relation to Windows 10 compatibility. The first thing I normally like to do is to start off with a count. So I'm going to take the software install count, And that's going to give us a grand total of all the software information that's installed within an organization. So presently you can see we've got 68,235 pieces of software within this demo database. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to look at some things like distinct releases. So breaking that down, this means we've got 2,712 distinct software releases. I can bring in things like product counts, 1,546 uniquely identified products, and then I can look at editions and I can look at versions. So this is a very this is a very high-level view of a breakdown of the 68,235 software installations we've got, broken down into these data points. So this then lets us aggregate that from different perspectives: unique releases, unique product counts, distinct versions, as well as distinct editions. So I'm going to bring this information together a little bit deeper, and I'm going to actually start to bring in some manufacturer information here as well. So by double-clicking on this, you're going to see that we're going to drop in a data point here, and that then allows us to break that information down by software manufacturer. You can start to see here that we've got a number of software manufacturers. Most of the major software manufacturers in the industry today are all represented within our Technopedia database, passed through into Normalize. So at this point, I'm going to do a couple things here just to get this data set down so that it's more manageable for this presentation. I'm going to pick Adobe Systems here. I'm going to run a filter on this just to keep Adobe through here. And that then lets us look at the Adobe position for our software landscape. So 3,477 installs, 134 distinct releases, 48 products, 27 distinct versions, and 4 distinct editions. So let's just chip that away a little bit here so I can make it a bit more manageable. Next thing I want to do is bring in the name of the software component. So that then brings in all of the name of the present software releases from Adobe manufacturer. So you can see we've got all the standard stuff here. We've got Premiere, we've got Photoshop, media players, Acrobat Reader, all the Flash, all that information as well. So typically what we can then do to sort of bring some more focus to this thing is we can then put a top 10 filter on this to sort of see what our top 10 Adobe products are by install count. So by selecting that and enabling that filter, that then gives us a bit more definition as to what our exposure is to Adobe from a product perspective. You can see we've got 1,031 Flash players, 921 Acrobats, and let's just focus this a little bit more on Acrobats so we can keep the narrative roaring here. So 921 Acrobat installs, 16 different releases, 1 distinct product. We actually don't need that anymore, so we'll pull that out of there, and 10 distinct versions. So now I can bring in some information through here to further define that. We can then look at, we've got Adobe 7, 9, 8, 5, and X, and it starts to break down that way as well. Okay, I can bring in the edition values, a couple standards, a couple of pros. I can also then bring in additional information about whether or not it's part of a suite, whether it's a software component, that sort of thing as well. Okay, so at this point, this is typically where we start to sort of expand this definition a little bit and start to look at things like end-of-life dates. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just pull out these 2 variables, get rid of that, get rid of that. Okay, and I'm just going to take off one of my filters here, which would be that one there, and I'm going to bring in the software end-of-life date on this existing product set. So you can see here I've got a couple different attributes we can look at: year, quarter, month, dates. So we can be very specific about the software end-of-life metric that we're looking for here. Typically, we start off with the end-of-life year. So this gives us a perspective to show that version 5 of Acrobat was end-of-life in 2006, 7 in 2009, 8 Pro in 2011, and the rest of it 2013 and 2015. So we're looking at some old software here, which is active within this organization, which is still being paid for within this organization. And the next question we're going to be looking for here is whether or not we can take this forward for a Windows 10 compatibility position. Okay. So then we're going to bring in some information related to Windows 10 compatibility. So we've got some information through here. So the first variable I'm going to bring in is the software Windows readiness version, which is this one here, and I'm going to bring this into a column here just to provide a bit more information, a bit more depth, So you can see here, this then breaks down the software products from Acrobat in terms of compatibility with Windows 10, Windows 7, and Windows 8. We don't really want to look at Windows 7 and Windows 8 for this purpose, so we're going to just keep Windows 10. Okay, so that tells us some information related to the version that we're looking at for our Windows 10 readiness. So next piece I want to bring in is the Windows software Windows readiness 64-bit. Bring that down through here as well. And that then we can split that down into what's compatible and what's not compatible with a Windows 10 position. Right now, all of the present versions of Acrobat we're looking at, 5 through 10, are not compatible with Windows 10. Based on, it's either not compatible or it's an end of life. We can see here, based on our end of life calculation, that most of the software that we're looking at here is actually end of life, so it won't be compatible to bring that information forward. Okay. Next value is the Windows 64 status. Bring that over here. That brings us down a little further, and that gives us another data point in terms of a paid update being required to bring this information or this software versions forward for Windows 10. The last piece I want to bring in here is, of course, the Windows compatible 64-bit version. So that'll tell us which version that these versions of Acrobat have to be updated to in order to be Windows 10 compatible. And you can see through here, let's just open this up a little bit more, center this a bit. You can see through here that we've got some information that says that we've got a variation of Acrobat 15, Acrobat Standard, and Acrobat Pro in order to bring those, 902 products, Acrobat products, to a Windows 10 compatibility position. Any questions on that, Bob?
No, this is really fascinating. I know everybody's got Acrobat. It's really confusing as they got a lot of different versions now. So just keep going. I love it.
So that shows some of the capability and some of the level of detail that we can provide with our Technopedia and Normalize process using the BDNA Analyze tool. We drilled down into some software manufacturers, software names. We identified some software market versions. We ran that through an end-of-life analysis to understand what your exposure to supported versus non-supported software. We looked at the compatibility with different versions of 64-bit Windows software, with Windows 10, whether it was compatible, not compatible, EOL, whether or not a paid update was required, and then we found from that process which versions were required to bring this software product to Windows 10 compatibility. Okay, next thing we're going to look at, I want to bring in some information related to some hardware analysis of the same type of information. Okay, so bear with me for 1 second here while the console resets.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because I bet a lot of people have a lot of old laptops that have been running Windows 7, Windows 8. They got to decide what they're going to do, if they're going to upgrade them or not.
We're going to focus on Windows 10 or Microsoft's stated compatibility for CPUs. Okay, so every laptop's got a CPU, that kind of a thing. So it gives you a nice view of what your hardware landscape looks like based on your discovery tool. We're going to drill into this thing and do some assessment on some hardware laptops to understand what the path forward and what the remediation steps are for a Windows 10 count. Okay, so first thing I want to do, just like we did last time, was bring in sort of a gross count of installed hardware. So you can see here we've got something like 1,588 different, 1,588 hardware installations in this particular data set. So I'm going to move up the chain here a little bit. I'm going to bring in some hardware information related to category. We can break that down into computers, network equipment, and some things that we can't tell based on some anomalies in manufacturer's information. So I'm just going to eliminate that. I'm also going to eliminate network equipment because it's a little bit outside of today's story. The next thing I'm going to be bringing in here is hardware subcategory, so we can break down computers a little bit further. We can see now that we've got desktops, notebooks, servers, and workstations. You can also see our system counts going along with that as well. What I'm going to do here is eliminate servers because we don't really want to look at that right now. So between desktops, notebooks, and workstations, that's what our system count is there. Okay. Next thing I want to look at is hardware manufacturers. So we know how many boxes we got. Let's go find out what kind of boxes they are. So desktops, I've got Dell and Lenovo. Notebooks, I've got Asus, Tech, Dell, Lenovo, and workstations, Dell, HP, and Oracle. Okay. We can also keep going. You can see here we've got an attribute for models. So that lets us bring in specific models for the manufacturers. So this breaks that categorizations down. We've got more granular data now at this point. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to just clean this up a little bit. Let's just get rid of the category. Let's get rid of the subcategory. Don't really need that. And at this point, I just want to focus on one specific view of one specific manufacturer. So I'm going to just keep Dell. Dell's a very popular laptop purchase for organizations. So you can see here the counts of all the different hardware models we've got for Dell laptops. Okay. So at this point, we can also start to bring in information about the CPU that's running on these manufacturers or these boxes. So CPU model. And that then breaks down the Dell models into the underlying processors that are shipped with those machines. Okay, I can also bring in stuff like clock rate, cores, more specific information about the processors if necessary. We capture a lot of information and make a lot of information available for these types of analysis. Single processor core, 2600 megahertz, that kind of thing. I'll just take this back out. Okay, so I can also bring in some end-of-life information about these CPUs and laptops as well. So let's also, similar to what we did with software, bring in some EOL stuff. Bring in the EOL year. Oh, that's not what I needed. Sorry. I want the hardware EOL year. So you can see here that we've got a number of these processors and these laptops that have been deemed as end-of-life for that manufacturer, in this case, Dell. Okay. And there's a number of things here I can do just to bring some additional attention to some of the remediation issues here. So I can come in here and throw on a conditional formatting, and I can do a data bar red. That'll put a small bar chart in there showing me the high counts of these processors in terms of overall install counts or system counts that we have to pay attention to. Okay. I can also do, a top 10 list if I wanted to filter on that. I can take, syscount for the top 10 Dell systems that are in place, and those are the ones that will be the focus of our counts. Okay. Now, I'd also like to bring in the Windows readiness data again. So let me just change my filter. And once again, I'm going to bring in the Windows readiness version into a column. Okay, so this is chewing away here. You can see that we're also pulling out quite a bit of data about multiple Windows versions. So once again, a lot of breakdown here for compatibility for different types of Windows versions. So once again, we're also going to focus specifically on Windows 10, exclude the rest of those variables. Okay, I'm going to bring in Windows readiness 64-bit. That'll give us a further breakdown as to whether these systems are compatible, not compatible, or end-of-life in terms of their specific information from the manufacturer. So once again, we're going to focus on not compatible end-of-life information. I'm going to bring in Windows status 64-bit. That'll tell us what our upgrade path and our remediation paths are moving forward. Free upgrade required, future compatibility, not compatible, other, paid upgrade required. These are CPUs, so they're all going to be, excuse me, manufacturer driven. I'm not seeing any kind of use cases where companies are actually going to update CPUs, but right now this gives us a focus on the not compatible or end of life in terms of the Windows 10 context to move forward. And then the software Windows status 64-bit will also give us some additional information around that type of thing as well.
So John, just to be real clear, read off like that one right there, the Model 960, where it's got that 164 units. What's that telling us?
It tells you that you've got a Dell Model 960 with 164 installations. The hardware end of life year is 2017. So they'll be coming up for end of life, according to Dell, the manufacturer of these boxes, this year.
How about the compatibility? How does it show that?
It says Dell says that this particular class of processors is not, Microsoft says this particular class of processors is not compatible or not recommended for compatibility with Windows 10. These are Core 2 Duos, Pentiums. These are, old boxes as far as that goes.
Nice. Okay.
So if you want some more information on that, like I said, we can bring in clock rate. We can bring in CPU cores. Dual core 2600, 3000, and 2500 megahertz processors. These are old boxes, and they're not just gonna. Microsoft doesn't recommend installing Windows 10 on them. Okay, so any questions on the hardware compatibility questions?
No. I know you've got some results. You did some work with customers on this exact problem. I'd love to see those.
Okay, bear with me for a second. I'll just flip back to the main screen. So next step, we want to share some use case information, some proof of concept and some use case information that we did with a large financial sector client in North America. Fortunately, we're not entitled to name that client right now, but it's a big bank, and that's all I can say about that. So what we're going to look at is what our POC process is, the type of data that we can deal with, and the type of inventory and type of insights that we can provide you with at the end of that. So just a reflection again on our normalization process. Consume data sources, aggregate, filter, align, deduplicate, pass it to Technopedia for the alignment to manufacturers' hierarchies and taxonomy, deduplicate, normalize, and enrich and provide for downstream consumption. So we've gone through that with this customer, and we've got some interesting results based on that process. So this client gave us information on 66,000 desktops, user desktops, excuse me, related to a Windows 10 migration process. We had 67,855 normalized endpoints, roughly 83,298,000 raw records of data. So 64 million files, 20 million add-remove records, packages from Windows software installations. We had 7 unique hardware vendors and 104 unique hardware models. And out of that, we came up with some normalization data, 3,761,000 software installations, 1,142 unique software vendors, 6,712 unique software releases. That's what their inventory and software and hardware inventory landscape look like based on our normalization process. So 83 million records based on 67,800 normalized endpoints. And it took us roughly to get to 4,021,000 normalized and enriched records, 2 hours and 13 minutes with the BDNA platform to get those results and those insights. Some of the insights we got and some of the ROI calculations that we do. So, 1,149 unique vendors. Assuming that you're going to do a one-time manual normalization of this, maybe 5 minutes per vendor to manually look up the vendor information. So approximately 96 hours. 104 unique hardware models at 20 minutes per model, 35 hours. 6,712 software releases, 20 minutes per software release, 2,238 hours. 761,000 software installations to normalize 83 million rows of data, probably somewhere around 6,712 hours. One-time normalization, no gap fill. No ongoing catalog updates.
I know, John, you told me that this same group of guys you were presenting to, they've been through this manually when they did the Windows 7 or Windows 8 migration. Isn't that right?
That's correct. We understood they did this about a year and a half ago with a team of about 12 people. Spent about $25 million and weren't really happy with the results. So we presented a compelling case to them. So based on our content packs, lifecycle and support, Windows 10 compatibility and vulnerabilities, we estimated that in terms of full-time hours or in terms of person hours, 15,795 hours or 1,974 person days, FTEs, just to do a one-time normalization. And we provided that in 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Okay, that's really something incredible. John,
I'll hand it back to you, Bob, for the wrap-up. And any questions that came in?
Yeah, let's. Before we wrap up. No, we've got some time here, so I got some questions. I'll paraphrase what the gentleman wrote in, because this question was simple. Just give me an idea how big is this Technopedia? Because this looks like something I just can't go out and create on my own. Give me an idea how big it is. How many years has BDNA been developing this product or service?
You probably could. Well, we use basically openly available information from hardware and software manufacturers all around the world. Presently, this number changes like every day. So we have over 1.7 million hardware and software products, as well as over 120 million market data points. Like I mentioned earlier, it's growing by approximately 2,500 entries every single day. We've been doing this for 10 years. We've got historical data going back 10 years, so you'll always be able to find that old PC or software product. One of the fun things that we do when we're presenting to our customers is we play the web browser game. We go out there and try to get them to understand what's like the oldest version of a web browser that they've got in their environment. So you'll be surprised at how many times that Netscape shows up in large organizations. Everybody's got a couple copies of Netscape still floating around for testing that they forgot about. It's been dead for 20 years, kind of thing.
That's a good story. Yeah, I noticed whenever time it showed system count, maybe we look at the high number counts like Adobe, Acrobat, but it's all those number ones. You go wonder where did all this stuff show up? Maybe this stuff was never even approved. Someone just brought it in themselves. So that takes some attention too. Excellent, John. So let's wrap up. We started talking about Windows 10 migrate. This is really serious business, and I think you can see that what Technopedia brings to you, I think, is a tool that how can you live without it? To go down that path of collecting that information manually, I think would just be an impossible undertaking. Because importantly, what we're providing you is this information is very accurate, it's consistent. You can go in there and it merges in a sense and normalizes with your database of all your assets. So very importantly, it's looking at your information. And just finally, back to that Gartner slide, all that red area, we want to squeeze that down. 2 hours to get it all normalized. Now you can get right in and start doing your analysis. Boy, I think we can definitely say with confidence that months of preparation can be reduced to weeks. So hugely significant. I hope we've whetted your appetite with our product. John, could you push it to one more slide so people can see how to contact us? And John, I want to thank you for that great demonstration and your stories. I found them fascinating. I hope our audience did too. And John, you want to say thanks, and then I guess we'll wrap it up.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for the time today, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about today's presentation or anything else that you see based on our data sheets, our marketing material, or anything from our website. We're more than happy to help you answer your questions and give us more insight into the BDNA platform. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, John, thank you. Thanks to our audience. Have a good day. Goodbye.